It's Friday for me, which means it is Saturday for you, and you know what that means? It's steer moving day. Looks like the boys got some company out here today.
Come on, boys. Come on, boys. Come on, boys. Let's go.
What are you guys doing? I swear, sometimes it seems like they're bored and they just create drama. These steers are on a 7-day grazing rotation, and as you can see, when they leave a pasture, they're leaving a lot of grass behind. In some ways, this is good because since these are harvest steers that we'll be taking probably in the spring, we want to make sure that they're having access to all the feed that they could possibly want. But when it comes to moving them or changing pastures, it makes it a little more difficult because they're not exactly hungry and waiting at the gate. As many of you know, I've been trying all summer to train these guys to come when called, and cattle can be trained to do that, but the problem is that they just don't really have the incentive to want to do it. And yeah, I could get cubes or offer them some sort of a treat, and I could probably train them that way, but the reality is all I need to do is get behind them and just give them a little nudge, get them to start moving, and they go right to the gate. They know the drill in that regard, so it's not really worth it to me to go and buy some cubes or something like that when all they would really do is just save me a few steps. And you know, it's kind of good to walk around. These guys taken care of, we can go back to the ranch and do the other things that need to be done today. That's what's going on today on Farmer Tyler Ranch. I'm back home now, and the first thing that I want to try to tackle today is making a latch for the gate on the new fence line that I just finished the other day. I looked around in my scrap pile for a short piece of pipe, and I found this. I believe this is 1/2-inch pipe, and it is about, shall we say, 3 feet long, and this should be just about perfect. The plan is to put this thing in the pipe bender and bend 45s on either side, and then we'll cut those straight so that this piece can go right up against the post and create a little latch for the pins to catch. And if that doesn't make sense, just follow along. I'll show you. So here I have my Harbor Freight pipe bender, pipe kinker, as some people accurately refer to it. The biggest mistake people make with these is they try to bend tube, and on top of that, they try to bend a thin wall tube, which this was not designed to do, and honestly, this will never do. But if you're just bending actual pipe and you're not wanting to go beyond a 90-degree bend, this can actually get it done. There's a lot of videos about how people have modified these and different techniques that you can use to get them to bend tube. And I've tried a lot of them, and honestly, none of them worked for me. My favorite one is filling the pipe with sand, as if somehow that's gonna prevent it from crushing on itself. I've tried it. For me, it didn't work. If it worked for you, let me know, but yeah. Not to mention the fact that filling them with sand is a mess and kind of a pain. So I don't recommend doing that, but apparently some people have had success. One modification that I did make to this is I replaced the rollers up here with these like little angle iron brackets. And the reason that I did that is, for one, I noticed that the pipe doesn't actually roll on the rollers, it just slides on the rollers anyway. And the rollers were putting divots in the outside of the pipe or on the outside of the bend that I didn't want. So using the angle iron here kind of spreads the force out a little bit. The pipe's gonna slide on the rollers or it's gonna slide on the angle iron. Well, at least this way it doesn't get a divot in it. So I think what we'll do is put a piece of tape around the ram. So now we'll have a good spot to measure when we get the bend where we want it. Alright, we'll be real fancy and measure this with a caliper. 1.45. Seems like way too much. Let's see how close we got. Oh, look at that. That's about as close to perfect as it gets. If you're one of those people that is thinking, who cares if these angles are the same? It really doesn't matter. As long as that piece of pipe is off of the post far enough for the pins to latch, who cares about the angle, right? You're right. In this case, it doesn't matter, but I like to treat jobs like this as if they do matter, because basically what you're doing is practicing and honing your skills so that the next time a project arises where I do need two angles to match perfectly, I'm already experienced in doing that, and I've got a good methodology to get that done now. So now I got to figure out a way to cut these legs off at the correct angle and in a way that it makes sure that this gap remains consistent. I've got an idea how to do it. Let me show you. So my idea is to kind of hang this over the edge a little bit. So I've got this edge of the angle iron matched up to the inside edge of the pipe here as best as I can get it, at least. And then basically we're going to use the angle iron as a cutting guide for the bandsaw to get a perfectly straight cut here on these legs. People like to tease me about how much I use C-clamps, and I understand it's a good-natured ribbing, which I appreciate. But man, a case like this, I mean, I couldn't have made a cut that straight freehand. How about now? So the hoop is ready to go, and if you're like me, you're thinking, you know, it's crazy how such a simple little thing can take so much thought and so much doing to produce, but we've got it now. Before we go and start welding on that fence, there's another thing that I need to do today, and I'll show you what it is if you haven't noticed it in the background already. Apparently, this is the year of the failing water trough. This one's got a little pinhole rusted in the side. You can see what a mess it's making. So I'm gonna get this draining, and then hopefully by the time we're done welding, this will be drained out and we can fix this hole. I think it was time to clean this out anyway. So if you've been wondering how this is gonna work, we're just gonna take this piece that we made in the shop and weld it onto the post like this, so that when the gate is closed and the latch is shut, This will just keep it from being able to open. What I really like about this style of latch is that this gate can move up and down, which it will. Like I explained before, since our soil has so much clay in it, as it gets wet and dries, it expands and contracts, and that causes things to move like posts. And what that means is that this gate will move up and down ever so slightly throughout the year. But because of the way these latch pins latch on this, it's always going to work, as opposed to a latch like this where the latch pins are trying to hit holes, and that's what keeps the gate closed. I made this latch like 8 years after I hung the gate, so this gate actually doesn't move that much anymore. But you can see that the latch pins are now at the bottom of the hole, and I think when I originally cut the holes they were like more towards the top. So this has moved a little bit, as I would expect it to, and probably in the winter time when everything gets wet it'll lift back up again. Because after all, the easiest way to set up a latch on something like this would be to just cut holes in the post that those latch pins could lock into. But in order to do that and make it work long term, you'd have to cut pretty tall holes, which would mean now you've created a perfect place for wasps to make a nest, and we're trying to eliminate those places as we go. So something like this is going to work the best for me. Oh yeah, and we still got this to take care of. Let's look right here. It should come as a surprise to no one that once I wire wheeled that hole off, it's actually a lot bigger than I had originally thought. I've got myself like a 2-inch patch here, and I don't think that's going to cover the entire hole, but it looked like the rest of the hole was pretty small. So we'll put this over the big spot, and hopefully just the silicone itself can plug the other one. I'm probably going to regret doing this, but there's a big dent here that we kind of need to be pounded out for this patch to fit. Yeah, I made another hole. Gosh dang it, I knew that was going to happen. These freaking water troughs. Well, yeah, I knew that would happen. I hoped that it wouldn't, but I kind of knew that it would. So now we've got 3 holes. The new one that I made is probably the worst out of the 3. Which, you know, honestly, that means that it was just gonna, it was gonna happen eventually. It just happened to happen now. So I definitely need some sort of a patch for that. Don't really want to run home and cut another one, although I may have to end up doing that. Let's see if I can source a patch off. Oh, you know what? I got a great idea. I just so happen to still have the Georgia juice bottle here, and if you don't know what this is a natural fly spray that I was running through the fly sprayer. It's made by Fussel Farms, the same people that make the fly sprayer. But really what I care about the most right now is that it's made out of some pretty decent plastic that would be perfect for making a patch. So I think I can just cut myself a little square out of this. Ought to be good to go. All right, that's nothing glamorous, but that's going to make all the difference. Now, obviously, the silicone is what is going to do the actual sealing on the water trough, but the reason why I want the plastic patches is because you need something a little bit strong, so when you get the tank full of water, the pressure of the water doesn't blow that silicone out, which is what it would probably do because it's fairly soft. So that's why I like this blue. This is actually a cut out of an old protein tub that the cows had eaten years ago, but I still have it. And this is not as thick, this white plastic, but it'll still do the trick. Look how big that hole is. Hopefully you can see that on camera. Are we good here? Yes, we are good. Anytime you caulk something, you know, just a matter of time before you get your finger in it, so may as well just do it now. Alright, that one ought to hold. There we go. I think those patches are going to stay there, and I've come here on the outside of the trough and just rub the caulking in to help seal the holes on the outside, but then also if there's any other little tiny pinholes that I don't see yet, that'll hopefully fill those in as well. And it dawned on me that it would have been a lot smarter to clean this water trough first, because now I can't really do it because those patches are still wet. So I'll give those a few hours to dry, or probably wait till tomorrow, and then I can scrub this tank out and fill it back up, and when the cattle are back up here, they'll have some water. These tanks are so expensive to replace now that I just hate to go buy a new one unless I absolutely have to. And since this is like a main watering source on the ranch, I think what I would like to do with this one is, when it does come time that I can't limp this one along anymore, I think I just want to build forms and pour like a concrete tank, because that is really the only water tank that's going to really last a long time, and that's what I want. The bad thing about a concrete tank is it would be a lot harder to clean, because you can't just flip it over, dump it out. Although the way I've got this one plumbed, I can't really flip it over and dump it out either. But I was thinking, if I got smart about this, when I pour when I build the form to pour the tank, if I made it so it has like a 2-inch drain pipe coming out with a ball valve or something, then at least you'd have a large drain. You could just get in there with a brush and a hose and flush all the junk out of there pretty easily, hopefully. So I think eventually that's what I want to do here. I'd also like to put this on a concrete slab, so probably that would all happen at the same time. I almost think it would have to. So that's a lot of concrete, but it's the right way to do this, and I think in the long run that's what I will be happy with. So that's the eventual plan, but for now we're gonna get every year that we can out of this one. This fence project has been dominating most of my time lately, so now that it is done, what is next? You guys might remember that I have another brush like this, a red one, and after seeing how much the cows like this one, I'd like to put another one in the little field so that when I wean the calves, they've got one of these brushes that they can rub on as well. And speaking of the little field here, pretty soon I think I'm gonna have to separate the bulls out of the herd. I'm pretty sure that they're done doing what they need to do out there. And the heifer calves are now getting up near that 7 to 8 months of age, or they will be in about another month, I think. And as we learned, every so often one can breed at that age. Another thing that I need to do is bring a few more loads of gravel out here. I know I need to put a couple more over by the round bale feeders here in the weaning corral or the little field. And then I would also like to put a load of gravel here in this gateway, and then a little bit down by the water trough down in the backfield. A lot of people ask me, why did I keep the gate here knowing that this is a low spot that gets so muddy? And the reason is it has to do with animal behavior. When you're trying to push cattle through a gate, it's a lot easier to get them to go through one in the corner of a pen, because the fences of that pen naturally funnel them down here. If the gate was out in the middle, you would be shocked at how hard it is to get a cow to go through that gate when she doesn't really know that that's what she needs to do. So that's why keeping the gates in the corners, if you notice, all 3 of them are right here in the corner, because when you need to make them go somewhere, it's a lot easier to do it like this. Another thing that I wanted to get done up here in the barnyard, which this makes me laugh, because it's one of those things where during the winter time, while I was feeding hay in this feeder, this was something that was super important to me, but once I quit feeding hay here, it kind of gets put on the back burner. But the idea that I had is the camera probably doesn't show it very well, but there are ruts going up to the feeder here, and there is an edge on the concrete, obviously, at the edge of the slab. And the problem that I was having is the front end on the 8 end being so heavy, carrying a bale and sinking, making ruts here, and then when you hit that slab, you start spinning your back tires and making holes back here, and you know, the more you do it, the worse it gets. So my thought is to dig some of this dirt out here and then make some concrete ramps going up onto this slab that are at a very gentle slope, so that, you know, no matter how wet or dry it happens to be this winter, I'll have nice smooth ramps going up onto the slab, and I won't have to worry about sinking and spinning tires. Down here in the bullpen, where we spent all kinds of time last summer, I think we've barely even been in here this year, but I still need to dig down to this water line back here and get myself a faucet or a spigot in here so that I can fill their water a lot more easily. And if time allows, I would honestly like to pour a little slab here in the corner and make them a little water trough here as well. And I've still got my old fence sitting here. I keep meaning to do this, and it's an easy job to put off, but I gotta haul all these boards out of here, get all the wire out of here. Really, yeah, this whole area needs to be weed whacked, cleaned up. I've got a ton of star thistles here in the loading chute. If I need to get a cow in the trailer, there ain't no way she's going through there, and I wouldn't blame her. In fact, there's a lot of cleanup that I need to do around here, not just the boards and the wire, but just, you know, kind of little things scattered about that, you know, you're always gonna get to them tomorrow, and then tomorrow never comes. And I'm sure there's a lot more, but that's just kind of what comes to mind right now here. Let's also not forget that we're gonna be planting hay here before we know it, and I haven't done hardly any groundwork over there. I've just dissed the fire break, and that's it. So there's a lot of tractor hours in my future. You know, when I first started this channel, I was telling somebody about it, and I can't remember who it was now, but I told them, you know, it was gonna be about the ranch and what we do and all that, and their first response or reaction to me was, well, aren't you worried that after a while you'll run out of stuff to film? And the answer that I gave that person then is the same one that I would give them now. Nope, not even a little bit. Thanks for hanging out with me today, guys, and I hope I'll see you again on Farmer Tyler Ranch.